Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and consumer champion and game show host Anne Robinson, who has recently announced her departure from the game show Countdown, now is no longer fettered by anything that she can say that might get her fired. She's already leaving, doesn't care. So she's come out and made a controversial statement today. She says that a woman is someone with a vagina. Shock and horror around the nation, or possibly not. Anyway, we'll have a look at this article. It's nice to see another celeb come out and start making a stand. There's more and more of them are doing this. More and more of them are making that stand. Started with J.K. Rowling. Then it went Sharon Davis. Now it's Anne Robinson. More and more of them are standing up for themselves, pushing back against the trans lobby that is trying to cancel women. And it's a shame we haven't got any politicians with this same level of spine. Anyway, we'll take a look at this article, see where it goes. So let's have a look at this article in the Mail Online. A woman is someone with a vagina. Departing Countdown host Anne Robinson wades into trans rights row over those who have not had sex reassignment surgery, saying she is horrified at the lack of safety in female-only spaces. That's something this channel has been championing for quite some time, and how you can quite literally walk in anywhere as a man, just claim to be a man. That's it. And you're talking changing rooms with women, vulnerable women, young girls, anything. And the pushback has begun. The pushback began with sport. Starting really with the weightlifter, the New Zealand weightlifter, and then the American swimmer, two men who were rubbish doing what they were doing against men, but decided to take on the ladies in the hope of winning, and well, did. And then it moved on to other sports, rugby and cycling, and now football's got involved. It's all very, very shoddy. It's a dirty game. You know, I don't mean the football or whatever. I don't mean that's the dirty game. I mean, it's a low down game when you're no good as a man, but you pretend to be a woman so that you can win a medal, and you deprive a woman who's tried for years to win that medal, and only to have it taken away by someone who is naturally stronger and faster by dint of being a man. So it began in sport, and then it started moving into other areas when it was seen that men were going into changing rooms, men were being put in female-only prisons, men were committing the R word in all female wards in hospitals, and the hospitals were covering it up. Because the trans lobby will shout and yell and threaten as soon as anyone says anything against them. You're an ist and a phobe. No, we're not. You're mental. That's the difference. Anyway, looking at the article, the Weakest Link legend waded into the trans row in an interview last week and said she was concerned by the transgender women in changing rooms, or men in changing rooms. She added that she believes that a woman is someone with a vagina, and shockingly left her role as Countdown host just after a year last week. TV legend Anne Robinson has waded into the row, blah blah blah, we just covered that. The famously blunt presenter declared her position on the ongoing row over trans rights in an interview with the Daily Telegraph a week after quitting as host of game show Countdown after just a year. Anne added that she was aghast at what she calls the lack of safety in women-only spaces, such as changing rooms at swimming pools. She said that she is worried about the allowing of transgender people who have not undergone sex reassignment surgery into these spaces. Stop right there, Anne. You need to actually be aware that you want to be scared of people who have had the surgery, because they're still men. You have to remember that they are biologically bigger than you, stronger than you. They have male brains. They may think they're female, but they're not. And just because they've had the ghoulies cut off doesn't mean they don't retain masculine tendencies to violence. It's a very difficult thing, I know, but they're still male. They're just men with a scar. They're not women now. Anyway, she said the most interesting statistic is that the amount of trans people who actually get surgically altered is minuscule. So you are talking about men in women's changing rooms. Yes, and that's what this channel has been saying for a long time. You can stick on your dress and call yourself Shirley, you're still a man, and when you do get your huge manly erection, you can't claim that it's your lady erection. Anne told the Telegraph she had never met anyone who hates the idea that we can define a woman with common sense. I've never met this person that's so angry. I suspect they're angry anyway, and this has been quite good to latch onto. Anne's lack of exposure to the toxicity of the trans row could be down to the fact she is not on social media because it doesn't pay. Also, it's toxic and she's not stupid. Britain currently faces a deep divide on the issue of transgender rights. Some activists say that trans people should be able to self-identify with the gender of their choosing. No. Others have hit back at the idea, saying that it would leave women-only spaces vulnerable to predatory behaviour. Yes. Trans rights became a hot-button issue in 2017 when plans to change the Gender Recognition Act to allow transgender people to self-identify in a gender different to that corresponding with their sex was announced by Justine Greening. No. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you call yourself. You are biologically male or female or whatever you are. That is your biology. That's what you are. And you can dress up. But I guarantee a man sees a woman as a woman. A man sees a man in a frock as a man in a frock. You're not fooling anyone. You're not even fooling yourselves, which is why you are always unhappy. Because ultimately, as I keep saying on this channel, it's a mental problem. Advocates for transgender people were welcomed the move to scrap the requirement for a diagnosis of gender dysphoria to be legally recognised as the gender they identify as. That was the wrong thing, because what you're saying there is it's not a mental condition, but it is a mental condition. This sparked a backlash from some who said the removal of this process would put women-only spaces at risk. And they were right. And we've covered this before. We've covered women in prisons, in women's prisons, mysteriously getting pregnant. Hallelujah, he is risen, I suppose, because there's no men in that prison, remember. Or the women in hospital wards who are R-worded, and then this is covered up by the hospital. We've covered that. We've covered the man who is the head of an R-word crisis centre, having not told anyone that he's a man and simply applied wearing his dress and a bit lippy. We've covered that. And can you get any more vulnerable than an R crisis centre? And you're letting a man in? The government later dropped the plans, thankfully, despite a public consultation in 2020 showing a majority of respondents backed self-identification. Yeah, I'm going to tell you why the majority of respondents did. It's because 99% of people didn't respond because they don't care. If you made it mandatory, you'd have got a completely different response, because the trans lobby went en masse and no one else did because they didn't care. But now they're caring. Now they're seeing. In the interview, Anne said she was concerned that parents were taking their unhappy children to the Tavistock clinic when they're 13 and not adequately scrutinising whether they are indeed transgender. That's right, you're taking a child to a doctor who has a vested interest in treating that child as transgender. That child does not get psychological counselling, does not get a psychiatric examination, but a transgender doctor who makes money being a transgender doctor just says, here, take these blockers, these puberty blockers, and we'll whip you in next week and have your ghoulies off. Whoever does that needs to be stripped of their medical licence, prosecuted, and thrown in the deepest jail for an awful long time. They are destroying children's lives, ruining their futures, making them sterile because they have an agenda to push. Meanwhile, that child may not be transgender. They are evil criminals and they need to be punished horrifically. How do you know that's what it is? She continued, about talking about the transgender issue. That's what your child is telling you, is it? That it's phrase, will that be what you want when you grow up, she said. Then she quipped, that's what I should have said to myself when I accepted Countdown, and laughed. Anne revealed that she quit Countdown over a pay dispute, and she did insist on noisy Susie Dent and Rachel Riley's mics being switched off. The presenter, 77, who was employed on a freelance basis, admitted that despite being offered a pay rise, she did not want to join Channel 4's payroll and so decided to walk away from her role as host. Yeah, because if she remains as a freelance, she gets paid and it's confidential directly into her company. Then she has an organisation, sorts her own tax affairs out, blah 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 blah. If she goes on the payroll of Channel 4, there's a thing where in this country, because Channel 4 is partially funded by the licence fee, people don't realise this, but part of the licence fee goes to pay for Channel 4 because partially it's a public service broadcaster. It does have advertising, but it also has a public service remit that it has to do certain things. So it gets that money from the BBC licence fee. And because of that, people who are employed by Channel 4 above a certain wage threshold have to have their salaries disclosed publicly. And a lot of them don't like it because they get embarrassed at how much they're earning. It was revealed that she was leaving Countdown after just 1 year earlier this week, blah blah blah. And this is really just the Countdown story, which I'm not going to go into. That's another video. So she's there. But the good news is we're getting another woman that's standing up. She has got the balls. She has got the balls to stand up. She's a very stern, frightening woman. She did The Weakest Link and was quite bossy in that. But she used to use her bossiness on a consumer rights program called Watchdog, and she'd go in and she'd rip these people, new corn shoot, sort of rogue traders or people who've promised things and then not delivered and things like that. So she did use her sort of bossy, full brass on, in your face attitude to quite some good actually. But yeah, she's standing up, another one. And every voice makes the yell louder, So I shall come up and round this video off. Yeah, as I say, another voice added to the choir, so the song gets louder and louder. We've always maintained that this channel is a small channel. It's a lone voice crying in the wilderness. I've used that term before, but thanks to you good people, we're slowly growing. We're getting up close to we've just passed the 1700, up to nearly 1750 subscribers. I mean, it's in such a short time. That's actually an immense amount of growth, and I can only thank you all. And I would ask at this time, if you haven't yet subscribed, please consider to do so. Make my voice a little bit louder when I'm talking. I do other videos, but when I'm talking about something important like the cancellation of women and the abuse that the trans lobby are trying to impose on society as a general, in general, but on women in particular, that needs a louder voice. And as I say, every subscriber makes my voice a little louder. I will keep pushing the message. I will keep fighting the good fight. But I can only do it with your help. So even if you don't subscribe, at least do watch, and that always helps as well. But yeah, I'll round the video off here. But I'm going to say one last thing before I do, which is with these higher profile celebrities coming out, I think there'll be a tipping point soon where politicians will not be afraid to start standing on this. At the moment, they are horrifically scared to say anything, and it's particularly on the left. Keir Starmer couldn't say it. Yvette Cooper couldn't say it. Annalise Dodds couldn't say it. No one on the left can say it because it goes against everything they think they stand for. Boris has come out and actually made a stance on it, which surprised everybody because normally he doesn't like saying anything. Well, nothing important. He waffles. But he actually did come out and say it, which I was astonished. But as I say, more and more high-profile people coming out and saying this sort of thing. There'll be that mass effect, and there will be that event horizon eventually when even the politicians will jump in, and then something will happen, and laws will change, views will harden, attitudes will harden. Society may just get back to a point where women are women, and let's hope so. I don't want men walking in with my mother, sister, niece. Don't want it, and I'm sure you don't either. Anyway, if you like what you hear and see on the channel, as I say, do subscribe if you possibly can. Ring the bell for notifications on any future output. Leave a like, leave a comment. And until next time, dear friends, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.